I get a call one day, and it's from a young man, and he's selling life insurance. And while he's talking, rather than interrupt him and say, I'm not interested, I thought, hey, I'm thinking about getting married here. Maybe I do need a life insurance policy. That's probably a mature thing to do. You could tell I made this guy's year. And so then he started going down his checklist of how old are you in good health, do you smoke, how much do you drink, blah, blah, blah. And he's going all the way down. Finally, the last question is, and what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm an astronaut. Dead silence on the phone. You're laying on your back on top of 4 million pounds of high explosive. And the quickest way out of this uncomfortable spacesuit is to get to orbit, so let's go. I'm Kevin Chilton, a former member of the United States Air Force and a former NASA astronaut, and I had the great good fortune on my journeys into space to take the Holy Eucharist with me on each of the 3 times I left the planet. You're excited, you're terrified, reviewing the checklists that are Velcroed to the wall. There's an astronaut comes in and checks, makes sure all your communications are right and everybody's comfortable, and then pats you on the head and says goodbye. And they close the hatch. You go, okay, it's just us now. The nearest human beings are 3 miles away. It's just us.
All systems are go for launch at this time.
And then you hear the final countdown from 10.
10 minutes, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
When it's 6 seconds, the main engines on the space shuttle would ignite. Now, we had simulators at NASA. The simulators didn't shake anything like the real vehicle. I was stunned at the vibration in the cockpit. In fact, my head was kind of banging off the inside of my helmet, going back and forth, and gauges that I could just normally read easily in the simulator were now kind of blurred because my head was moving around so much. Those 6 seconds felt like a minute. And I kept thinking, we are shaking so hard. If we don't lift off, something's going to come off this vehicle. Something's going to break. When those engines lit off, you know, there's no doubt in your mind you're going someplace that day, and I'd hoped it was space. You know, I'd been to confession. What's going to happen is going to happen. You know, it's in the hands of the Lord. And then the man says 0. And you're immediately crushed back in your seat by the force of 3 times the acceleration of gravity. You thought it was bad sitting on the pad. Now it's really, really shaking. You get this incredible appreciation for the power of the vehicle. After 2 minutes, the solid rocket motors separate. Slowly, though, as the fuel burns down at the same thrust, the acceleration builds back up. I remember watching the velocity increase, and it's just amazing how fast you're accelerating.
Separation confirmed.
And then, boom. Main engine cut off. 8.5 minutes. And you come forward in the seat, you've survived launch. And you're traveling at 5 miles a second. I mean, there's some high fives that can go around the cockpit because you're just so happy that everything worked out as planned. And there's a lot of work to be done to get the vehicle configured for orbit. One call out in the checklist was to look at your front windows and examine them for any damage that may have occurred during launch. And I looked up and my heart stopped. It looked like someone had taken a diamond and carved this perfect arc across my front windscreen. I turned to Dan and I said, Dan, I think my windscreen's cracked. And man, I've never seen someone's head look up so fast. And then he turned to me and he smiled and he says, put your checklist down and sit back for a minute here. We're ahead, we got time. Sit back and enjoy your first orbital sunrise. What I was seeing was not a crack in my window. It was a fine white line of the sun's first light on the limb of the earth in front of us. And it made this perfect arc across my windscreen. And then slowly but surely, that white line started to grow into a ribbon of light, getting brighter and brighter, and then suddenly the sun bursts above the horizon. And it's a sunrise like I'd never seen before because This sun wasn't yellow or pinkish. It was the brightest, most brilliant white light I'd ever seen. And rather than having the sky light up above you, the backdrop for the sun was space. And it was the darkest black I'd ever seen. It gives you pause when you see something like that. I had the same feeling when I held my first daughter in my arms, and saw how beautiful she was. To be able to connect some of my experiences in the space shuttle and be able to take that and reflect it into my faith. I'm grateful that I'm Catholic. And it just seemed like the right time. I said, guys, what do you think about having communion right now? And we say some prayers, in preparation and of gratitude and, reflecting on the moment. And then I handed the Eucharist out to each one of them, and I closed my eyes and put the Eucharist on my tongue. And we received the body of Christ while we were flying around the earth at 17,500 miles an hour, 250 miles up, looking at this beautiful planet. And there wasn't a dry eye in the cockpit. It was just so emotionally moving at that moment. And it's that feeling, it's a feeling of awe, it's a feeling of humility, it's a feeling of wonder. It was so special to be able to take the Eucharist to space. It's a moment I'll never forget.